Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie and today we are doing my July wrap-up. I read 11 books in July, which was honestly really good for me. I read a lot of really good books. I went out of my comfort zone a lot for the books that I read, which was a lot of fun. This month there was Summerween, and so I read a lot of fun spooky scary books, and I just read a lot of really great books. There wasn't any like DNFs or like anything that like I really hated, so that was always a plus. Yeah, I'm just gonna get into it and tell you about the books I read. Technically, this book I did not read in July, but I didn't talk about it in my June wrap-up, so I just want to do a quick overview. This is Muse and Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I've talked so much about the Strange Dreamer duology, so I'm not really gonna go into this. This is the second book. It was so good, guys. 5 stars. The 5-star duology. Loved it so much. I felt like this was a really good conclusion to the duology, and I just really loved it. But again, I've talked about this so much. Not gonna talk about it now. The next book that I did read in July, though, was Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, and I absolutely adored this book. This is one of my favorite Lauren Asher books I've ever read. I was so excited. I did this in one of my bookish vlogs where I got it signed by her, and I met her, she was just so nice and so sweet, and best day ever, to be honest. I just love this. This book was so good, guys. It's really long, but honestly, the font's big, 80% dialogue, took me like 2 seconds to read. I didn't really mind the length too much. I mean, does a romance ever need to be over 600 pages? Probably not, but I just love Lauren Asher, so kind of whatever for me. This book definitely cemented the Lakefront Billionaires as like one of my favorite, it's like probably my favorite series from her. I'm really excited for the next one. This book follows this girl Ellie, who is a nanny for Raphael and his son. Just, I love the single dad nanny trope. I don't know what it is, it always gets me. Kids in books sometimes annoy me. The kid in this book did not annoy me at all. He was actually really sweet, and I felt like he added a lot to the plot. Sometimes I feel like kids are just plucked in there for like literally no reason, but I feel like he added a lot, and the story and their romance would not have progressed without him. And I definitely think this book went into a lot deeper topics than I've seen her go in before, so definitely check trigger warnings before reading this, because I didn't, but it didn't bother me, but I just like wasn't expecting it. Overall, the romance in this was so good. Slow burn, and I love slow burns. I hate when like they're instantly attracted to each other, or like they're instantly like obsessed with each other, because that's just not reality. And I'm like, okay, but like what do you guys like know about each other, you know? But like I definitely feel like their romance progressed at a very realistic pace for this, and I just really love her writing. It's just super fun and entertaining, and I just really enjoyed this book. I wasn't quite a 5-star for me, because like as much as I had fun and as much as I enjoyed reading this, I don't think about it that often, so I think it's like right there. I think I'm gonna do like 4.75, but really enjoyed this book and absolutely recommend it. The next book I read was Glint by Raven Kennedy. This is the second book in the Play to Prisoner series, and this book I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I did. It's actually crazy because I did not like Glint, the Guild. I did not like it. I was entertained, for sure. It kept me entertained, but like kind of in a dumpster fire kind of way. But I was like, you know what? I hear that the series gets better. I'm gonna take a gamble. And a lot of like book influencers that I see have read this book that like and really liked it, that I tend to like the books they like, so I'm like, okay, I will give you another try. And thank God I did, because I really liked this book. So entertaining, so much fun. This is just such a fun romantasy, and I love romantasy. I think the character development in this is so good. The first book was just way too much. Like the love interest was like literally just an abuser, and I was like, I can't get behind this man. I was really worried the story was gonna go in a way that I just could not get behind, but in this book it did not. And I think the main character, like the girl, is starting to really come into her own and realize that like she does not need to be a little caged bird anymore. There's a lot of like plot twists and like plot developments in this book that I was not expecting, where I was like, oh, okay, like this is not what I expect from the story at all, but I'm loving it. I just really liked this one, and I just bought the third one that I'm definitely going to read next month, and I'm just really enjoying the series, so it's a lot of fun. I would totally recommend the series so far, but the first book you just kind of gotta sledge through. It's really short, so it's not that hard, but overall really fun time. I think I rated this book like a 3.75 just because like it's kind of a transitionary book. Not a ton happened in this book, but it's setting up for the rest of the series, so I still had a fun time with it, but like not a lot happened. The next book I read was Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I love Riley Sager, so I was so excited for this release, and I really enjoyed this one, guys. Like, I just always love his books. Like, the plot twist I never see coming, and I always feel like he keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. This book follows this boy Eddie who had a sleepover in his backyard with his best friend when he was 8, but when he woke up the next morning, his best friend was gone and there was like a slash in the tent. And now it's 30 years later, he's back in his childhood home and some like weird things are going on, and he's trying to figure out once and for all who killed Billy. I really liked the premise of this book. This is one of my favorite Riley Sager premises I've ever read by him, and so I was really excited for it. Like, the lead up to this book was phenomenal. It really had me spooked. It had me kind of like, it was thrilling. Like, that's like what I expect from a thriller. Like, I was definitely thrilled, and this would have been a 5-star read for me if the last like 10% of the book wasn't kind of a letdown. You know, on the thrillers when you're waiting for that big reveal, and when it finally came, I was like, oh, like, okay, like all right. So didn't fully love that, but that was only 10% of the book, and the rest of the book I really loved. Chapters left you on cliffhangers. Everyone seemed suspicious at some point. Like, I just love his books and I'll read anything he lets out. Like, one of my favorite thriller authors ever, and I rated this book 4 stars, I think. If it literally wasn't for that like little twist at the end, it would have been 5. But you know, you read the thrillers for the plot twist, and if you don't like the twist, it's a bit of a letdown. But overall, like, really had a great time reading this, and I would recommend it. The next book I read was Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and this was my first Stephen King book. I really liked it. I don't read a lot of horror, so I don't really know how to rate them, to be honest. I rated this book a 3.75. You know, that might change as I read more horrors and like kind of see what the genre is like. I wanted to read a horror because I love spooky things, and I'm like, why don't I ever read horror books if I love like horror movies and like spooky kind of vibes? So I was like, you know what, let me do it. And I had a lot of fun reading this book, and well, as much fun as you can while being scared shitless at 2 a.m. This book follows this family who just moved into this house in Maine, and there's a road in front of it, and then everyone's kind of like, you know, like, this road is really busy and it's known for like killing pets and small children sometimes. But then their neighbors showed them this pet cemetery that is like over some hill, and that is where people bring their pets that were killed in the road. And they're like, that's a little morbid, but all right, thanks for the heads up. But they soon realize that this pet cemetery is a little bit more sinister than it seems on the outside. Stephen King himself in the front said that this is his most frightening book he's ever written. I can see why. It's covers some really disturbing topics. I was very scared throughout the whole time. What I really liked about his writing is, in part 1, I would say like the first like 200 pages or so, really nothing happened. Like, things were happening, but like you kind of didn't know why, or like you were like, okay, and but despite not a lot happening, I was very creeped out. Even in the mundane parts, like, there was some eeriness to his writing where like you were just waiting for something, which I really liked how he kind of built that suspense and scared feeling. But overall I really enjoyed this book. My one little issue that I had with this book was, I thought it was really funny. So they had this cat and it started acting like really weird, but like the weird things that Stephen King was having this cat do was like just like stare for long periods of time. I'm like, have you ever met a cat? That's like what they do 90% of the day. Like, they just stare. Like, my cat, I can look at any general direction at any time and there's a good chance she's just standing in the corner staring. I'm like, that's just what they do. So I'm like, I don't know if this is supposed to be scary, but like, I don't think you've met a cat before. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to read more Stephen King. So if you have any like Stephen King recommendations, I would love to hear them. I heard Misery is good, so I think I'd like to read that like in October. But if you guys have any other recs, I would love to hear them. The next 3 books I read were from the library, so I will put them right here. The next book I read was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. This book was so much fun. I really liked this. This is kind of like an iconic Halloween story, I feel, and I hear so many references to like Ichabod Crane and like the Headless Horseman, and I really liked hearing like the actual story of it because like I feel like I understand it now, and I just really like that story. It's really fun. I had a version that had a lot of really cool illustrations in it, so that like I feel like added to the story a lot. This was just a quick little read in the middle of like my long novels during the summer readathon, and I'm really glad I read it. And the next book I read was A Guest in the House by Emily Carroll. This was one of my, besides Heartstopper, it's one of my first graphic novels I read. It was kind of a spooky graphic novel. It was about this woman who marries this guy with a kid, and she moves in with him. She's kind of this small town girl, and he's a doctor, so she doesn't really question him that much. She's like, I'm getting a really good end of this deal. But then when she moves into the house, the ghost of his ex-wife keeps showing up, and she starts to wonder if the death of his previous wife was a little bit more sinister than they let on. And it was just really cool. The artwork was honestly phenomenal. Really added to the story. There was a plot twist at the end that I really enjoyed that I did not see coming at all. I had a lot of fun reading it. I love graphic novels, and I don't know why I don't read them more. I think I rated this book like 4.25. I think it's just because the ending was a little bit messy. Overall, I had a really good time with this book, and again, the artwork like really made it for me. Like, it was really good. And the next book I read was Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This book was phenomenal, you guys. It was so good. Like, I think about this book all the time. This book is about killer mermaids, and I have never read anything like it before. It was so unique, which I feel like is very rare for someone who reads as much as I do. It's so hard sometimes to find a book that is just so unique, like a unique premise that you've never really read before. So I really enjoyed just like that aspect of it. So it's basically about this entertainment company who wanted to do a mockumentary on mermaids, but no one really expected them to be real, but they went out into like the area where like they would be, and they brought these like actors and like just everyone on the set for this mockumentary, and that boat never returned. And there is footage of mermaids killing everyone on that boat, but everyone thinks it's doctored. The public thinks that this company set those people on a suicide mission, and now this company is trying to get their reputation back, being like, no, like we had no idea that there were gonna be mermaids there, and they are real. So they set out another boat with one of the girls on, and the main character, her sister was on the first boat, and now she is a marine biologist and she is on this new boat. It honestly follows like a huge cast of characters, which I really liked, and they set out to go find these mermaids. It was so interesting because like there was a lot of like, it wasn't like, oh, just like killer mermaids. Like there was a lot of like scientific talk to back up that like, no, like mermaids being real is really not that far out of the question. And it really had me like believing in mermaids, and I was like, okay, like I believe you now, and you might be onto something. So now I fully believe that mermaids exist. Like I wasn't like a non-believer, but this book kind of has, I'm like, yeah, like it's the only explanation. The entire book kept me on the edge of my seat. I feel like the author built suspense really well, and I just really loved it. So if you guys are looking for like a summer spooky book, 100% recommend it. It's such a good summer scary read. It was honestly phenomenal. I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read was a novel love story by Ashley Poston, and another really phenomenal read. I have seen so much mixed reviews on this book, but I really enjoyed it. I just love Ashley Poston's writing. It never misses for me. This book is about this girl who basically just stumbles into the universe of her favorite book series, which honestly, my dream, to be honest. I would actually die if I could like meet some of the characters and just like hang with them. Honestly, the writing in all her books always steals the show. Like I just love reading her stuff. What I really enjoyed about this book was I felt like I related to the character a lot, which I think made me like it more. Like the way she talked about like her feelings towards books and how she uses books to cope through the hard times in her life, and like she finds so much comfort in books, and that's exactly how I feel. And I just found myself relating to her relationship with books a lot, and I just love, like, this book was for the reader girlies. It really was. And like I really enjoyed her and her best friend's dynamic. It was so cute. Like they planned out rainy days so they could like just read together on those days, and I just thought it was so sweet and so cute and heartwarming, and I just really enjoyed this book. Originally I rated it 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna lower it to like a 4.5 just because I didn't adore the romance the entire time. And as much as I loved the other aspects of this book, this is a romance novel, and if I'm not 100% on the romance, I can't give it 5 stars because I feel like I didn't really, up until like the last like 30%, I was not really feeling the romance. I was just kind of really enjoying it for other reasons, which is still really good. Like I still really thought it was a great book, but like the romance could have used a lot of development. And I think that's always been my problem with Ashley Boston's book. Like I love her writing, I love her storytelling, but sometimes the romances get a little lost. Overall, really enjoyed this book. I would totally recommend it, and I know I've seen so many mixed reviews, but I personally really enjoyed it, so I definitely would give this a try. The next book I read was my favorite book I read this month. It was so good. It was Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I adored this book, you guys, and like the longer I sit on it, the more I absolutely love it. Like best romantasy I have read in so long. Like I love romantasies, they easily entertain me. I'm having a lot of fun while I read them because I read so many, it's kind of hard for them to wow me. Oh my god, this book wowed me. I understand the hype because I feel like this book is being so hyped up, and I totally get it, and I am now adding to it. I will add to it as much as I possibly can, and I need Rebel Witch right this instant. I want it so bad. So this book is about this girl Rune, who is secretly a witch, but she poses as just like kind of like a ditzy socialite. Then there is Gideon, who is a witch hunter, and they are both live under this society where witches are hunted and killed, and Gideon's job is basically just to kill witches. Rune is secretly one of the most notorious witches that he has always been trying to hunt down but just can't get, and she is the Crimson Moth, who is not just a witch but saves other witches. This book was just so phenomenal. I love witch books. Like I adore romantasies that center around like witches. I don't know why. It's like probably my favorite like fantasy trope for sure, like Kingdom of the Wicked and stuff. I think about Kingdom of the Wicked all the time. I adore those books, and this is no different. I love the witch trope. This book was so thrilling. I read this in my 24 readathon. It had me up and at 'em at like 1 a.m. I was flying through it. So entertaining and just such a fun time. It was a really well thought out world, and the characters were great. There were some amazing twists at the end that I never saw coming, and literally kept me on my toes the entire time. The ending was literal perfection. I need the second one now. I totally recommend this book. If it's not abundantly clear, this book is 5 stars. The next book I read was also romantic, but had very opposite feelings towards it, and it is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in the Powerless trilogy. I didn't really like this one. I know that Powerless has like a cult following, and if you love these books, amazing, and I'm kind of jealous of you because I want to be in on this hype, but like I just can't. Like Powerless, I liked Powerless. I didn't absolutely adore it, but I had a fun time. What made Powerless good was the banter. Powerless also had a little bit side of plot. Like there was some plots. It reminded me a little bit too much of the Hunger Games and Red Queen, but a plot nonetheless. I enjoyed those plots, so I was like whatever. But I feel like possibly Lauren Roberts took the love for the banter in that book and kind of just ran with it in this book. This whole book was just banter, and if you love that, that's great. You're gonna love this book, but I needed a little bit more. Like I feel like this book was just like talking. Like we had lost the plot completely. There was no plot. Like I feel like we were running in circles the entire time. It was basically a huge game of cat and mouse. The bantering sometimes felt a little bit too much like bickering, and I'm like, are you guys like divorced parents? Like what is going on? Also, my other issue is Powerful, the novella between these two, came out like right before Reckless, and I really liked Powerful. That was like my favorite of this series, and I was like kind of waiting for it to matter in this book. Like the ending of Powerless was a huge event that like was very brushed over in this book, and the things that Powerful set up that we were kind of expecting in this book did not happen at all. Powerful did not need to be released. Like it was kind of made to seem like, oh, like you have to read this because it's like setting up, but like literally nothing was relevant in it. You did not need to read Powerful at all. I felt like that was kind of a missed opportunity because a lot of people really liked Powerful and were really liking those characters and were waiting for them to show up in here, and they just didn't, and I was a little disappointed by that. But with this book though, I will say it was fun. I had a fun time. It was entertaining, kept me up at 5 a.m. during my 24-hour readathon, so I will give it that. It was an entertaining book. I just don't think this series is gonna be my favorite, but I really love seeing everyone else enjoying it. So, and so many people love it. Do not take my word that it's like a bad book, because it just wasn't for me, but it may be for you because so many people love it. So I don't know, I'm not trying to be mean about it. I just want to give my honest opinion. I want full transparency on this channel, and I want to give you guys my full honest thoughts. I rated this 2.5 stars, and that's being kind of generous, so not my particular cup of tea. The last book I read this month was The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand, and I really like this book. This was my first Ellen Hildebrand book. I know people talk about her, but like in my head she's like a hidden gem. I just kind of adored this. Like, it was honestly just a really like cute, fun story. Like, it was, I'm really glad I read it this summer. The perfect summer beach read. Like, I feel like she has perfected the summer beach read. It's all her books I think are on Nantucket, which is a super fun summer setting. Like, in her books there's so much going on, but like somehow it like works. It follows so many points of views that I'm like, whoa, like what are we doing right now? It worked. It totally worked. It basically follows this girl, Lisbeth, who is found her boyfriend of like 15 years has cheated on her, and they run this restaurant in Nantucket together, and she's like, all right, I'm out. So now she is working for this billionaire who just revamped this very rundown hotel in Nantucket, and she's the general manager there, and she's trying very hard to make this hotel sustainable and to get really good reviews on it and to like kind of turn it around and giving herself like a new purpose. But there's also so many different elements in here. Like, it follows all of the different like staff members of the Hotel Nantucket, and all of them kind of have a secret. All of them have something they're hiding that's going on. Also, what I really liked about it was that there is a ghost in this book, and that kind of made it really like a little spooky element, which I really enjoyed, and I was not expecting at all, but I loved it. So there was so much going on. It totally worked. It was kept me so entertained. Yeah, I just really liked this book. I rated it 4 stars. I was a little bored in some areas, that's why I docked 1 point, but overall a really fun beach read, summer read, and exactly what I needed at the time. And I literally, after reading it, I went out and bought, it's over there, I bought another Ellen Hildebrand because I know I'm gonna be in the mood for another one at some point. So those are all books that I read in July. I had a really good reading month. I'm very excited though for what August is going to bring, because I just finished my summer class. I have basically a full month of like nothing before school starts. We're gonna get so much reading done. Such a fun time. I'm so excited. Also, if you want to hear more of my in-depth thoughts to a lot of these books, I have reading vlogs for a majority of them, honestly. Pretty much every one of these is somehow in a reading vlog. If you want to hear my real-time reactions to the books, you can please go check that out. And if you like my channel and you like my videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. I post every Mondays and some Fridays. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have a fabulous week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.